Admiral Nathan Cross stood in the command center of Sentinel Prime, watching the vast expanse of space before him. The orbital station floated high above Earth, a marvel of human engineering that had taken 3 decades to build. Through the massive windows, stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across black velvet. Nathan was a tall man with silver hair and sharp blue eyes that had seen more than 40 years of military service. He had spent most of his career in traditional Earth Navy, commanding battleships and submarines. Now, at 58, he found himself commanding something far greater than anything he had imagined in his youth. He was the head of the Deep Space Fleet, humanity's first military force designed to protect humanity's expansion into the galaxy. Earth had achieved faster-than-light travel only 15 years ago. The breakthrough came from a young physicist named Lisa Morrison, who discovered a way to manipulate space-time itself. Within a decade, humanity went from being a species locked to a single planet to becoming spacefaring explorers. They had established colonies on 12 different planets and mining operations on countless asteroids. The Terran expanse, as it was officially called, stretched across a region of space roughly 200 light-years in diameter. For a species so new to space travel, it was an impressive achievement. But Nathan knew that humanity's rapid expansion had not gone unnoticed. Intelligence reports suggested that the older spacefaring civilizations were watching, waiting to see if humans were a threat, or merely a curiosity. The most powerful of these civilizations was the Khadorian Empire, an ancient interstellar power that had dominated the galaxy for over 10,000 years. The Empire controlled thousands of star systems and commanded fleets that numbered in the thousands of warships. On this particular morning, Nathan received troubling news. 3 Khadorian warships had crossed into Terran territory without permission. They had not attacked, but their presence was a clear violation of the territorial boundaries that Earth had declared. The ships were massive vessels, each one larger than anything humanity had yet built. Their hulls gleamed with a metallic sheen, and their weapon systems were clearly visible even from a distance. Commander Patricia Hayes rushed into the command center, her dark hair pulled back tightly and her expression serious. Patricia was Nathan's chief tactical officer, a brilliant military strategist who had studied the enemy fleet's movements for weeks. She carried a data pad showing the coordinates and trajectories of the Khadorian ships. "Sir, they are moving deeper into our territory," Patricia said urgently. "At their current speed, they will reach the mining colony on Horizon Prime in 48 hours. Nathan felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. This was a moment that would define not just his career, but potentially the future of the entire human species. He could respond with force, risking a war that humanity might not win. He could send a diplomatic message which might be interpreted as weakness. Or he could do something that no emerging spacefaring nation had ever dared to do. He could issue a warning so clear and so severe that it would force the ancient empire to reconsider their actions. Nathan made his decision. He turned to Patricia and spoke with calm certainty. "Contact all communication channels. I want this message transmitted on every frequency we have, every language the Khadorians understand. Make sure it reaches them loud and clear." Patricia nodded and went to work immediately. Her team worked frantically to prepare the broadcast. Nathan walked to the center of the command center and stood before a camera. He thought carefully about his words. This message would be heard by the Khadorian Empire, by every other spacefaring civilization in the galaxy, and by the people of Earth who were watching their military leadership in this moment of crisis. Nathan began to speak, his voice steady and filled with authority. "This is Admiral Nathan Cross of the Terran Command, representing the United Governments of Earth. A warning is being issued to all Khadorian military forces currently operating within the Terran expanse. You are in violation of established territorial boundaries. You have exactly 6 hours to withdraw from our space. Any further incursion will result in immediate military response. We do not make empty threats. Our weapons systems are fully operational, and our defensive capabilities are superior to anything you currently face in this region of space. The Khadorian Empire has dominated the galaxy for millennia, and we respect that power, but we will not allow our people to be threatened. Withdraw immediately and we will forget this violation. Disobey, and you will learn why humans have survived on a dangerous planet for millions of years. We are warriors by necessity. Do not test our resolve. This is your only warning. Terran Command out." The message included technical specifications of Earth's latest weapon systems. It showed sensor readings from successful tests of new defense platforms. It included calculations that, while somewhat exaggerated, suggested that human technology had reached a level that rivaled or even exceeded some older Khadorian systems. The message was designed to convey confidence without appearing arrogant, strength without appearing aggressive. As the transmission was sent out across the galaxy on every frequency available, the command center fell silent. Everyone understood that they had just crossed a threshold. There was no going back now. Earth had declared itself a force that was not to be trifled with. Patricia stood beside Nathan, watching the view screen where the Khadorian ships were still visible. "Do you think they will listen?" she asked quietly. Nathan considered the question carefully before answering. "I think the older civilizations understand strength and respect. They have been playing this game for thousands of years. They will either respect our position or they will test us. Either way, at least now they know we are willing to defend what is ours." The next 6 hours passed slowly. Every person on Sentinel Prime watched and waited. Military units across Earth were placed on high alert. Families gathered around news feeds, understanding that something momentous was happening. The fate of humanity seemed to hang in the balance, waiting for the Khadorian response to this bold ultimatum, delivered by a species that had only recently ventured into space. On the view screen, the 3 massive Khadorian warships continued their approach, but their speed had slowed. Whether this indicated they were considering the warning or preparing for battle remained unknown. Nathan Cross sat in his command chair, perfectly still, waiting to see if humanity's gamble would pay off or if they had just made the biggest mistake in human history. The tension in the command center was thick enough to cut with a knife. Every officer knew that the next few hours would determine the course of human civilization for generations to come. Captain Marcus Elliott had spent his entire adult life preparing for a moment like this, though he never truly believed it would come. He was a skilled pilot and military officer, respected by his crew and feared by his enemies. His fighter squadron was stationed on the colony world of Horizon Prime, protecting the mining operations that extracted rare minerals crucial to Earth's expansion into space. The colony had a population of just over 5,000 people, including families and children who had come to build a new life on a new world. When the alert came through about the Khadorian ships, Marcus was in the Flight Operations Center, reviewing maintenance reports for his squadron's latest interceptor fighters. The alert system suddenly blared to life and red warnings flashed across every screen. An automated voice announced that hostile foreign military vessels were approaching the colony with unknown intent. Marcus immediately moved into action. He had trained for this scenario countless times during simulations. He contacted his pilots and ordered them to their fighter craft immediately. Within minutes, the first of the sleek human fighter ships lifted off from the surface. Each fighter was equipped with the latest weapons and propulsion systems, though they were still far smaller and less heavily armed than the massive Khadorian warships they would potentially face. As Marcus's fighter climbed into the upper atmosphere, he could already see the 3 Khadorian warships in the distance. They were truly massive, each one easily 100 times larger than his fighter. From this distance, they looked almost like flying mountains. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He had seen images and sensor data of these vessels, but nothing compared to seeing them with his own eyes. Marcus activated his communication system and made contact with Admiral Nathan Cross aboard Sentinel Prime. "Sir, the Khadorian ships are now within weapons range of the colony, awaiting orders," Marcus reported professionally, though his heart was racing. Nathan's response came back steady and clear. "You are authorized to engage if they attempt to attack the colony or its inhabitants. Otherwise, maintain a defensive position and keep them informed of your presence. Let's see how they respond to superior tactics and positioning." Marcus understood what Nathan was saying. This was not just about military combat. It was about demonstrating that humanity was capable and prepared. He began positioning his squadron in a tactical formation that would make the most of their superior maneuverability compared to the larger Khadorian vessels. He sent a direct message to the approaching warships, identifying himself as Captain Marcus Elliott of the Terran Defense Force and Orderin. Chancellor Vexthor sat in the Grand Hall of the Khadorian Empire's Central Command Station, a massive structure that orbited the Imperial homeworld. The hall was vast and impressive, with walls made of a material that seemed to shimmer between silver and gold. Holographic displays floated in the air all around him, showing data from across the Empire's territories. The Chancellor was an elderly Khadorian, his race tall and imposing with skin that reflected light in unusual ways. He had ruled the Empire for 30 years, and in that time, he had never faced a situation quite like the one now before him. The 3 warships that had been sent to test the human territory had returned with a troubling report. They had not been attacked, but they had been confronted. The humans had sent a message so clear and so bold that it had shocked the commanders of the Khadorian fleet. The humans claimed their defensive capabilities were superior. They had demonstrated knowledge and technology that suggested they were not bluffing. Most importantly, the humans had the courage to challenge an ancient empire. This kind of boldness was rare and dangerous. Governor Lysera entered the hall, her military uniform crisp and her manner commanding. Lysera was the military governor of the region closest to human space, and she had advocated for testing the humans for months. She believed that this new species represented either a threat that needed to be eliminated or a resource that could be conquered and exploited. She walked directly to Chancellor Vexthor without hesitation, showing the confidence of a military commander who believed she was right. "Chancellor, the humans have demonstrated a level of arrogance that cannot be tolerated," Lysera said forcefully. "They issued a public warning to an Imperial fleet. This is an insult to the honor of the Empire. I demand authorization to assemble a strike force and teach these upstart creatures a lesson they will never forget." The Chancellor listened carefully to her words. He valued Lysera's military perspective, but he also knew that military solutions were not always the best solutions. He raised his hand, gesturing for her to wait as other council members entered the hall. This was too important a decision to be made by just 2 people. Minister Crone entered slowly, his ancient frame moving with careful deliberation. Crone was the oldest member of the Imperial Council, and he had served the Empire for over 200 years. His wisdom and experience were legendary, and everyone in the hall showed him great respect. He took his place and looked at the Chancellor with eyes that seemed to see far deeper than ordinary sight. "Vexthor, I have reviewed the human transmission," Crone said quietly but firmly. "The technical specifications shown in their message contain elements that I have never seen before. The energy signatures suggest weapons capabilities that go beyond what we believed possible with their level of technology." Lysera scoffed at this assessment. "Minister, with respect, we are speaking of a species that only achieved spaceflight 15 years ago. How could they possibly possess weapons technology superior to ours? They are merely bluffing with confidence and technical jargon they do not fully understand." But Crone shook his head slowly. "I do not believe they are bluffing, Governor. I have examined the data carefully. The humans appear to have developed innovations in weapon systems that suggest a different approach to warfare than we have taken. Their technology may not be more advanced in all respects, but in certain areas, they have achieved things we have not." Commander Devon Morris, the head of Imperial Intelligence, stood and presented additional information. "Sirs, we have studied the human civilization extensively. They evolved on a dangerous planet with numerous predatory species and harsh environmental conditions. This created a culture of warriors by necessity rather than choice. Their history is filled with conflicts and wars. They have learned to innovate quickly under pressure. They did not develop advanced technology over thousands of years like our empire. They have compressed thousands of years of development into just a few decades. This suggests a species with tremendous potential for rapid advancement." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans were not some backward species that could be easily conquered. They were a young but dynamic civilization, with the capability to innovate and adapt quickly. This was a different kind of threat than the Empire typically faced. Lysera remained unconvinced. "With all due respect to the Minister and to intelligence, I still believe that military might is the only language these humans understand. Our fleet of 5,000 warships dwarfs anything they could possibly assemble. If we strike now, before they have time to develop further, we can crush them easily." Governor Lysera moved to the center of the hall and activated a holographic display showing strategic military plans. She showed the council her proposed invasion strategy, a massive assault that would focus on destroying human orbital installations and then assaulting Earth itself. She promised complete victory within 6 months and absolute subjugation of the human species. Many of the younger council members listened with interest. They saw things in black and white terms. The humans had challenged the Empire, and therefore the Empire must respond with force. But Minister Crone stood again, his aged body straightening with an effort that showed his determination. Chancellor, I must speak a caution. Governor Lysera assumes that we will achieve victory easily, but what if we do not? What if the humans are as capable as their weapons demonstrate? What if, when faced with an invasion of their homeworld, they deploy weapons of mass destruction that can cause unimaginable damage? I have read reports that humans possess nuclear capabilities far beyond what even our oldest records suggest is possible. Then we destroy them completely, Lysera responded angrily. There is no negotiation with species that would threaten the Empire. We conquer or we eliminate. Those are the only choices. Chancellor Vexthor raised his hand for silence. Minister Crone, what do you propose instead? Crone turned to face the Chancellor directly. I propose that we approach this differently. Instead of military action, we should attempt diplomatic contact. We should invite human representatives to meet with us. We should understand them better before we decide on a course of action. The humans demonstrated intelligence and tactical thinking in their approach to this situation. We should talk to them. This suggestion caused an uproar among some of the younger council members. The idea of negotiating with an emerging species was seen as beneath the dignity of the ancient empire. But other council members, particularly those with experience in matters of diplomacy and long-term strategic planning, saw the wisdom in Crone's words. There was genuine debate in the council now with passionate arguments on both sides. Chancellor Vexthor listened to all the arguments carefully. He was a thoughtful leader who did not make hasty decisions. After hearing all perspectives, he finally spoke. We will send a diplomatic message to Earth. We will request formal contact with their leadership. We will see if these humans are willing to negotiate. At the same time, we will prepare our military for the possibility of conflict. If the humans prove to be reasonable, we will seek a peaceful arrangement. If they prove to be hostile, we will respond with force. This is the path I have chosen. The council members began to depart, some satisfied with this decision and others clearly unhappy. Lysera approached the Chancellor before leaving. Sir, I hope this decision does not leave us vulnerable. These humans may interpret diplomatic overtures as weakness. Vexthor turned to her calmly. Then we will show them that it is not. We will speak to them politely, but we will speak from a position of great strength. They will understand that we are not negotiating from desperation, but from confidence. We have nothing to lose and much to potentially gain. Either they accept our invitation for peaceful relations, or they prove themselves hostile and we respond accordingly. But we are not a species that should act in haste. As the Chancellor watched the council members leave, he felt the weight of a decision that could affect the future of galactic civilization. The humans had forced the Empire to make a choice. They had drawn a line, and now the ancient empire had to decide whether to cross it or to recognize the humans as players in the galactic game who deserved respect and diplomatic engagement. The outcome of this decision would echo across the galaxy for centuries to come, shaping the relationship between humanity and the greatest power in known space. Admiral Nathan Cross received the news of the Khadorian diplomatic initiative with a mixture of relief and surprise. The Empire had chosen to talk instead of fight. This suggested that his bold warning had worked better than he could have hoped. But Nathan also understood that this was just the beginning. The next phase of contact with the Khadorian Empire would require careful diplomacy and continued military readiness. He prepared Earth for the historic meeting that was about to take place, a meeting that would determine whether humanity would be accepted as a galactic power or viewed as a temporary curiosity destined for eventual subjugation. The diplomatic ship arrived at Earth's orbital station with great fanfare and careful ceremony. The vessel was smaller than the warships that had previously entered human space, but it was still magnificent. Khadorian diplomats descended onto the station, their tall frames and unusual appearance drawing attention from every human present. They wore ceremonial robes that shimmered with the same metallic quality as their starships. At the head of the delegation was Ambassador Trell, a distinguished diplomat who had negotiated treaties with dozens of alien civilizations across the galaxy. Trell had served the Empire for over 100 years and understood the complexities of dealing with emerging species. Admiral Nathan Cross greeted the ambassador personally in the main conference hall of Sentinel Prime. The hall had been specially prepared for this historic meeting, decorated with symbols representing both human achievement and peaceful cooperation. Nathan wore his dress uniform, a sharp blue suit with gold insignia showing his rank and service record. He extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting, and Trell studied the gesture with curiosity before reciprocating. "Welcome to Sentinel Prime, Ambassador Trell," Nathan said formally. "We are honored by the Empire's willingness to engage in dialogue." Trell's response was measured and diplomatic. "Admiral Cross, Chancellor Vexthor has sent me to establish formal relations between our two civilizations. The Khadorian Empire recognizes that your species has demonstrated both intelligence and military capability. We propose that we begin discussions about peaceful coexistence and mutual respect." The two leaders sat at a large table with their respective delegations. Behind Nathan was Commander Patricia Hayes, General Sarah Klein, and several other key military and political leaders. Behind Trell were Khadorian officials and military advisors. The atmosphere in the room was formal and careful, with both sides measuring each word. During the first day of discussions, Ambassador Trell explained the structure of galactic civilization. The Khadorian Empire was the most powerful force, but there were other spacefaring civilizations as well. Some were allies of the Empire, others maintained neutrality, and a few were openly hostile. Trell explained the territorial systems that had evolved over millennia. Each established civilization had recognized borders, and conflicts typically erupted when a new species tried to expand into established territories. "Your expansion into the Terran expanse was initially seen as an interesting development," Trell explained. "Young species often emerge and attempt to establish themselves. Most either integrate peacefully into existing structures, or they are brought under the protection of an established power. Your species, however, demonstrated something unusual. You have the confidence and the capability to declare sovereignty. This is rare." Nathan listened carefully and responded thoughtfully. "The people of Earth value their independence. We did not develop space travel to become subordinate to an ancient power. We came to the stars because we believe humanity has something valuable to contribute to galactic civilization. We want to be partners and traders, not subjects or colonies." Trell nodded slowly, understanding the implications of Nathan's words. This was a species that would not easily submit to domination. They would need to be treated as equals, at least in some respects. Ambassador Trell spent hours reviewing human history, their achievements, and their cultural values. He began to understand why this young species had the courage to challenge the ancient empire. Over the following weeks, negotiations continued. Nathan proposed a treaty of mutual recognition and territorial integrity. The Khadorian Empire would acknowledge human sovereignty over the Terran expanse, and in return, humanity would agree not to expand beyond those boundaries without imperial consent. Additionally, trade routes and cultural exchanges would be established. The proposal was reasonable and showed that humanity was willing to work within galactic structures while maintaining independence. Back on the Khadorian homeworld, Chancellor Vexthor reviewed the diplomatic reports with great interest. The humans had not made unreasonable demands. They were not asking for resources or special privileges. They simply wanted to be recognized as a legitimate civilization, with rights equal to other spacefaring species. This was actually a position the Empire could accept. After consulting with his advisors, including Minister Crone, who had advocated for this diplomatic approach, Vexthor authorized Trell to begin drafting a formal treaty. However, not everyone in the Empire was pleased with this direction. Governor Lasara sent angry transmissions to the imperial capital, arguing that negotiating with the humans was a mistake. She claimed that this would show weakness and encourage other emerging species to challenge imperial authority, but her voice was increasingly isolated. The Chancellor had made his decision, and most of the council supported the diplomatic path. Admiral Nathan Cross felt the pressure lifting as the negotiations progressed. It became clear that the Khadorian Empire was genuinely willing to treat humanity as an equal in the galactic community. This was an extraordinary achievement for a species that had only recently left its home planet. But Nathan also understood that respect had to be earned and maintained. He continued to strengthen Earth's defensive capabilities, while simultaneously building relationships with the Empire's leadership. One evening, as the negotiations were reaching their final stages, Ambassador Trell asked to meet with Nathan privately. They sat together in a quiet observation area overlooking Earth. Trell gazed down at the blue and white planet below them. Your world is beautiful, Admiral. I have visited many worlds in my long life, but there is something special about a planet that has given birth to a new spacefaring civilization. Nathan stood beside the ambassador. We love our world, Ambassador. It has shaped who we are. The beauty and the danger of Earth created a culture of people who are willing to face challenges and overcome obstacles. That is why we could stand against the Kadorian Empire and not be destroyed. That is why we can negotiate with you as equals. Trell looked at Nathan with what seemed to be respect. You are right, Admiral. Your species has already proven itself to be worthy of a place in galactic civilization. I believe the Chancellor made the correct choice in pursuing diplomacy, rather than conflict. A war between the Empire and humanity would have been costly, and the outcome, while likely favoring the Empire, would not have been as certain as some of my military colleagues believed. The final treaty was completed and signed in a formal ceremony. The Accord of the Young Wolf, as it came to be known, established the Terran expanse as official human territory and granted humanity full recognition as a spacefaring civilization. Trade routes were opened, and cultural and scientific exchanges began immediately. The agreement also included a mutual defense clause, meaning that if either humanity or the Kadorian Empire was attacked by an external force, the other would come to their aid. As Nathan placed his signature on the treaty alongside Ambassador Trell's formal seal, he reflected on how far humanity had come. Just weeks ago, an ancient empire had sent warships to test human resolve. Now that same empire was treating humanity as a respected partner and ally. The warning Admiral Nathan Cross had issued to the galaxy had been heard, and it had resulted in something far greater than mere survival. It had resulted in humanity's acceptance as a power to be reckoned with in the galactic community. News of the treaty between humanity and the Kadorian Empire spread rapidly through human space and throughout the galaxy. On Earth, celebrations broke out in cities across every continent. People who had lived in fear of invasion now celebrated the greatest achievement in human history. News broadcasts played footage of Admiral Nathan Cross signing the treaty, and his image became famous across all human colonies and settlements. The military that had been placed on high alert was stood down, though not completely. Nathan understood that eternal vigilance was still required. The treaty had brought peace and recognition, but that did not mean threats no longer existed. What was most remarkable was how other spacefaring civilizations began to respond. Species that had previously ignored humanity now requested formal diplomatic relations. The Velkarin Collective, a powerful trading bloc that controlled valuable star systems, offered to open trade negotiations with Earth. The Thelnok Alliance, a military alliance of several species, requested that humanity join their organization. Within months, humanity had gone from being an unknown emerging species to being actively courted by multiple galactic powers. Captain Marcus Elliott was promoted to Commodore and placed in command of a new human space force focused on deepening military cooperation with the Kadorian Empire. He spent time aboard Kadorian warships, learning about their weapon systems and tactics. To his surprise, he found that there were areas where human technology was indeed superior, particularly in fighter pilot training and small unit tactics. The Kadorians, who had dominated space combat for thousands of years, were eager to learn from human innovations. This exchange of military knowledge strengthened the alliance between the two civilizations. General Sarah Klein worked to modernize Earth's military infrastructure. With the immediate threat of invasion removed, the focus shifted to long-term strategic planning. New military academies were established on human colonies to train the next generation of officers and soldiers. Advanced weapons development programs were accelerated, knowing that humanity now had access to resources and partnerships that had previously been impossible. The future looked bright for human military advancement. On the diplomatic front, negotiations continued with various galactic powers. Ambassador Trell remained stationed at Sentinel Prime as the permanent representative of the Kadorian Empire to humanity. He became a close advisor to Admiral Nathan Cross and was instrumental in helping humans understand the complex web of galactic politics. Through Trell, Nathan learned about several other emerging threats that existed in the galaxy. There were hostile alien species that threatened peaceful civilizations, pirate groups that operated across established borders, and unstable political situations that could erupt into conflicts. One particular concern was the Nexar Dominion, an aggressive military power that had been expanding its territory through conquest rather than diplomacy. The Dominion had attacked several peaceful species and was now threatening to invade the territory of a minor civilization that was allied with the Khadorian Empire. Ambassador Trell brought this situation to Admiral Nathan's attention, asking if humanity might be willing to join a coalition to protect the threatened civilization. Nathan brought this proposal to Earth's leadership. The idea of committing military forces to defend another civilization was a significant step. It would require human soldiers to potentially risk their lives in a conflict that did not directly threaten Earth or human settlements. There was debate about whether this was the right course of action. General Sarah Klein argued for supporting the coalition, believing that establishing a reputation as a reliable ally would strengthen humanity's position in the galaxy long term. Other officials worried about overextending Earth's resources. After careful consideration, Nathan made the decision to commit a human military force to support the coalition. It was not a massive force, just 3 warships and 2,000 soldiers, but it was enough to demonstrate humanity's commitment to defending peace in the galaxy. The contingent was placed under the command of a brilliant young officer named Lieutenant Colonel Vincent Cooper, a career soldier who had proven himself in numerous training exercises and simulations. The coalition forces assembled in a region of space near the territory of the threatened civilization. The Khadorian Empire provided the bulk of the military force, but the human contingent was highly visible and well regarded. The presence of this international coalition had the desired effect. The Nexar Dominion, when confronted with the combined military strength of multiple species working together, decided to postpone their invasion plans. Diplomatic negotiations began and eventually a peaceful resolution was reached. What surprised many in the galactic community was how effectively humans integrated into the coalition. Despite being new to galactic military operations, human soldiers demonstrated superior training, innovative tactics, and exceptional bravery. Stories of human units making tactical breakthroughs and preventing enemy advances quickly became legendary. By the time the crisis was resolved, humans were being discussed as elite warriors throughout the galaxy. Lieutenant Colonel Vincent Cooper returned to Earth as a decorated hero. He was promoted to colonel and assigned to help train the next generation of Earth's military forces. His experiences in the coalition had provided valuable lessons about galactic warfare that would strengthen humanity's military capabilities for years to come. Admiral Nathan Cross reflected on how rapidly things had changed. In just a few months, humanity had gone from being an isolated emerging species to being an active participant in galactic affairs. The warning he had issued to the Khadorian Empire had opened doors that could never be closed. Humanity was now woven into the fabric of galactic civilization. The future held unlimited possibilities, though Nathan understood that challenges would inevitably arise. But he was confident that humanity, with its combination of courage, intelligence, and determination, would meet whatever challenges came with strength and wisdom. 2 years had passed since Admiral Nathan Cross issued his warning to the Khadorian Empire. In that short span of time, humanity had transformed from a newly spacefaring species struggling to establish itself in a vast galaxy to a recognized power with influence across multiple regions of space. Trade stations operated by humans now existed on 17 different worlds. Human merchants traded goods and technology with species from across the galaxy. Human scientists collaborated with researchers from other civilizations on groundbreaking discoveries that benefited all spacefaring species. The military academy on Earth had expanded to train hundreds of new officers and soldiers each year. These graduates went on to serve not just in Earth's armed forces, but also in joint operations with the Khadorian Empire and other allied powers. Human pilots were known throughout the galaxy for their exceptional flying skills and courage. Human engineers and scientists had made breakthroughs in weapons technology that even the ancient Khadorian Empire acknowledged as innovative and valuable. Chancellor Vexthor of the Khadorian Empire attended a celebration on Earth to mark the anniversary of the Accord of the Young Wolf. The elderly chancellor traveled personally to the human homeworld, a gesture of respect that shocked many in the galactic community. His visit to Earth lasted 3 days, during which he toured human cities, met with world leaders, and spent several hours in conversation with Admiral Nathan Cross. During one of their private discussions, Vexthor reflected on the decision he had made 2 years ago to pursue diplomacy rather than military action against humanity. "Admiral, I have thought many times about what would have happened if we had chosen differently. Governor Lysara was not wrong when she said our military would likely have defeated your forces in direct combat. But Minister Krone was right that victory would not have been certain, and more importantly, it would not have been wise. We would have conquered Earth perhaps, but we would have done so at great cost, and we would never have had access to the innovations and perspectives your civilization brings." Nathan responded thoughtfully, "Chancellor, I think both of our civilizations have benefited from this partnership. Humanity might have survived military conflict with the Khadorian Empire, but we would have been severely damaged. We would have turned inward, focused on military production and defense rather than expansion and peaceful trade. By choosing diplomacy, you allowed humanity to flourish and contribute to the larger galactic community. That decision reflects great wisdom." As the Chancellor's visit concluded, he awarded Admiral Nathan Cross the Order of the Golden Covenant, the highest honor the Khadorian Empire could bestow upon a non-imperial citizen. In his speech, Vexthor praised Nathan for his leadership, courage, and wisdom. He declared that the Admiral would be remembered in Khadorian history as the human who had brought his species into the galactic community with honor and strength. Back at Sentinel Prime, Commander Patricia Hayes worked with a team of Khadorian and human military strategists on joint defense plans. The partnership between the two militaries had become remarkably strong. They shared technology, training methods, and strategic thinking. Patricia often reflected on how unlikely this partnership seemed just a few years ago, when Patricia was preparing to possibly fight against Khadorian forces. Now she worked side by side with Khadorian officers and considered them colleagues and, in some cases, friends on one of the Khadorian colonies. A young Khadorian scientist named Vexishara was working with a team of human researchers on a project to develop new weapon systems that could protect against an even more dangerous threat. Vexishara had grown up hearing stories of the ancient Khadorian Empire and its superiority. But after working with humans, her understanding of the galaxy had expanded. She saw that intelligence and capability were not determined by how old a civilization was, but by the creativity and determination of the individuals within it. She began writing papers and giving lectures about the human achievement, arguing that it should be studied as a model for how emerging civilizations could establish themselves in a competitive galactic environment. On Earth, young people dreamed of joining the space forces and participating in galactic affairs. The concept of defending human interests across the stars fired the imagination of an entire generation. Universities established programs in xenobiology, galactic politics, and advanced physics. Humanity was rapidly developing the educational and technological infrastructure to sustain its position as a galactic power. However, not everyone in the galaxy welcomed humanity's rise. Governor Lysara, though her position in the Khadorian Empire had weakened, continued to argue that the Empire had made a strategic mistake in treating humans as equals. She maintained secret communication channels with military officers who shared her concerns about humanity's expansion. She believed that eventually, humanity would become powerful enough to challenge Khadorian dominance, and she wanted to ensure that when that moment came, the Khadorian Empire would be prepared. Intelligence Officer Devon Morris warned Admiral Nathan Cross about Lysara's activities. "There are elements within the Khadorian Empire who view our rise with concern and suspicion. We should remain vigilant and continue strengthening our military capabilities. That said, I believe most Khadorians genuinely welcome our partnership. They understand the value it brings." Nathan acknowledged the warning and took appropriate precautions, but he did not allow it to interfere with the positive relationships being developed. He understood that every civilization had those who opposed change and new relationships. What mattered was that the leadership of both civilizations remained committed to peace and cooperation. As the second anniversary of the Accord of the Young Wolf approached, Admiral Nathan Cross received invitations to visit the Khadorian homeworld. It was an unprecedented honor for a non-imperial citizen to be invited to the imperial capital. Nathan prepared carefully for this visit, understanding that it was another step forward in establishing human-Khadorian relations on the firmest possible foundation. He brought with him gifts and representatives from Earth, demonstrating that humanity valued the partnership and was willing to invest in maintaining and strengthening it. Admiral Nathan Cross stood in the observation deck of the Khadorian Imperial vessel as it approached the Khadorian homeworld. The planet was breathtaking, a world of towering crystal formations and vast cities that stretched across continents. The sky was tinged with purple hues, and 3 moons were visible even during daylight. Nathan had studied images of this world, but nothing had prepared him for the reality of seeing it with his own eyes. This was the heart of the greatest empire in the known galaxy, and he was being invited as an honored guest. As the vessel descended toward the Imperial capital, Nathan reviewed the ceremonial protocols he had learned. The Khadorian civilization had rituals and traditions that stretched back 10,000 years. Respect for these traditions was essential. Nathan wore his dress uniform, decorated with his medals and awards. He carried gifts from Earth, including technological advances that human scientists had developed and were offering as tokens of friendship. Chancellor Vexthor greeted Nathan personally at the landing platform. The elderly chancellor was accompanied by an honor guard and several high-ranking officials. The gesture was significant. The chancellor himself coming to meet a human admiral showed that this visit was being treated with the utmost importance. As they walked through the crystal corridors of the imperial capital, crowds of Khadorians gathered to observe the human visitor. Nathan understood that his presence here was symbolic. He represented not just himself or even Earth, but the beginning of a new era in galactic civilization. During the official state dinner, Chancellor Vexthor presented Nathan with a gift of extraordinary value. It was a piece of Khadorian history, a relic from the early days of the Empire. The gift symbolized the Chancellor's respect for Nathan and his belief that humanity was worthy of being part of Khadorian history going forward. In his speech, Vexthor addressed not just the assembled guests but effectively all of the galaxy, since the speech was being broadcast across known space. We gather today to honor Admiral Nathan Cross of Earth and the human civilization he represents. 3 years ago, this admiral issued a warning to our empire. That warning could have been the beginning of a great conflict. Instead, it became the beginning of something far more valuable. It became the beginning of a true partnership between 2 very different civilizations. The humans have shown us that age and tradition are not the only measures of capability and worth. They have shown us that courage, intelligence, and determination can elevate any species to prominence. We are honored to welcome them into the galactic community as partners and allies. Nathan responded with a speech of his own. Chancellor, I come before you representing not just the military of Earth, but the hopes and dreams of all humanity. We are a young species, but we are eager to contribute to the larger galactic community. We recognize the great achievements of the Khadorian Empire and the respect you are due for your millennia of leadership and accomplishment, but we also believe that humanity has something valuable to offer. We offer innovation, courage, and a perspective that comes from a species still young enough to see possibilities that older civilizations might have forgotten. We are honored by this alliance and pledge to be faithful and valuable partners for generations to come. Over the following days, Nathan met with various Khadorian leaders and officials. He visited research facilities where human and Khadorian scientists worked together on projects. He toured military installations and saw the advanced technology that the Khadorian Empire had developed over thousands of years. He attended cultural performances and learned about Khadorian art, music, and literature. With each experience, his respect for the ancient civilization grew, and he understood better why the Chancellor had chosen diplomacy over conflict. One significant moment came when Nathan was allowed to visit the Khadorian historical archives. Minister Crone, who had advocated for diplomacy 3 years ago, personally guided Nathan through the vast libraries of information that documented 10,000 years of Khadorian history. As they walked through the archives, Crone spoke about the cycles that civilizations went through. Most civilizations follow a predictable pattern, Crone explained. They emerge, they expand, they achieve dominance, and then eventually they decline as newer species rise to challenge them. The Khadorian Empire has managed to maintain power for longer than most, but we are not immune to these cycles. When I first learned of humanity's existence, I wondered if you might be the species that would eventually challenge our dominance. In many ways, you still might be. But I also realized that rather than fighting this inevitable change, we could shape it. By treating you as equals now, we establish a relationship that might last far into the future even as the balance of power shifts. Nathan listened carefully to these words. They reflected a maturity and wisdom that came only from centuries of experience. He understood that Krone was suggesting something profound. The Chancellor and Minister Krone had recognized that the Khadorian Empire's long-term interests were served better by accepting humanity as a partner now, while the Empire was still the dominant power, rather than fighting a war that might weaken both civilizations. On the final day of his visit, Nathan was invited to address the Khadorian Senate, the legislative body that advised the Chancellor on matters of importance. Standing before this ancient institution, Nathan spoke about the future he envisioned for the galaxy. "I believe that the greatest achievements in history come not from conflict, but from cooperation. If humans and Khadorians can work together, combining our strengths and learning from each other's wisdom, we can accomplish things that neither of us could achieve alone. We can explore the galaxy more thoroughly, develop technology more rapidly, and create a peaceful order that benefits all civilizations. This is the vision I present to you, not a galaxy where one civilization dominates all others, but a galaxy where different species cooperate while maintaining their independence and unique cultures." As Nathan's vessel departed from the Khadorian homeworld, he reflected on how far humanity had come. The warning he had issued 3 years ago had been heard and understood. It had established humanity as a power to be reckoned with, but more importantly, it had opened doors to partnership and cooperation. Humanity had not conquered the galaxy through military might, but had earned a place at the table through courage, intelligence, and diplomatic skill. Back on Earth, people gathered in great numbers to welcome Admiral Nathan Cross home. He had become a symbol of human achievement and the promise of a bright future among the stars. Young people aspired to follow in his footsteps, dreaming of contributing to humanity's ongoing expansion and integration into galactic civilization. As Nathan stood at Sentinel Prime, looking down at his homeworld, he thought about the responsibility that came with success. Humanity's position in the galaxy was now secure, but maintaining that position would require continued effort, wisdom, and strength. The future held both great opportunities and potential dangers, but Nathan was confident that humanity, with its combination of courage, intelligence, and determination, would meet whatever challenges lay ahead. The warning that had echoed across the galaxy 3 years ago had been clear and unambiguous. It had established that humanity would not be subjugated or ignored. But in the years that followed, that warning had evolved into something greater. It had become the foundation of a new order in the galaxy, one based on respect between civilizations and the recognition that strength and wisdom could be used to build rather than to destroy. This was the legacy that Admiral Nathan Cross had created, and it would define humanity's relationship with the galactic community for generations to come.